Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel. This episode is all about the ancient Japanese art of Kyudo archery and the Yumi longbow that is used for it. Before we begin, I would like to say that this video does not mean that I do not respect the Kyudo sport or the great Kyudo athletes. Quite the opposite is true, in fact. I fully realize that the sport is much about tradition and that any change to the ancient equipment is considered abhorrent by the athletes. Now, my video is very seriously changing and modifying the ancient Yumi bow design, but only so that myself, as a completely untrained archer and a total newbie to Kyudo, is able to use the weapon effectively without any previous training. This is just an interesting challenge and by no means criticism or an attempt to modernize the traditional equipment as used in the sport. So, let us begin with some historical background information about Kyudo, which actually means the way of the bow. Kyudo is actually a very old archery style, going back to prehistoric times. The first pictures of the distinctive asymmetrical longbow are probably older than 2,000 years. Wow. Those bows did not even go out of fashion when muzzle-loading matchlock guns came into usage in Japan in the 16th century, because bows in the hands of experts had a much higher rate of fire, were more accurate and had a longer reach too. But of course, shooting the matchlock guns was much easier to learn, so the two weapons coexisted for a long time in Japanese warfare. When Japan was going through a more peaceful era during the Edo period, archery became more of a sport and even normal people that were not warriors started to practice it. But the end of the samurai era in the late 19th century almost ended traditional Japanese archery too. But in 1896, Honda Toshizane, the Kyudo teacher for the Imperial University of Tokyo and other Kyudo masters, revived it. Now Kyudo is the sport that is performed all over the world, and luckily Germany is no exception. The Deutscher Kyudo Bund, German Kyudo Federation, highlights the fact that Kyudo has been in Germany for more than 50 years now. So when I did a poll on my Facebook page about what kind of bow I should look at to add a magazine, the Yumi longbow as used in Kyudo won. Big surprise. I had to find a proper bow, but boy, those are hard to come by and not cheap. Fortunately, one of my followers, whose name is also Jörg by the way, is an active member of the Kyudo club in Bonn, and one of their other members had a bow for sale. What a great coincidence. Of course, I was asking myself, why is it so difficult to shoot that bow? So for the first 6 months to a year, beginners are only allowed to shoot into a straw target from close distance. Well, when I went to Bonn, I quickly learned why. The Yumi bow is a strange weapon. It is totally asymmetrical, the top part is really long and the bottom part much shorter. That is not because of horse archery and also not because of kneeling down. No, this is because if you make the bow from natural material, such as bamboo or wood, the bottom part is usually thicker. So the long, thin upper part makes sure the bow has an incredibly long draw, while the lower part brings the speed. The long draw is what makes shooting the bow so difficult. You draw it out way past your head, and if you would not take care, the bowstring would rip your ear off. What a Kyudoka must do is twisting and canting the bow within a fraction of a second when the string is released. And then the string must also be kind of twisted, so the ear is not touched. After the shot, the bow is in a sideways position because of that twisting business. Very complicated. In fact, it is probably the most complicated bow shooting style I have ever seen. Wow. So I took my Yumi longbow, which is probably like 2 meters and 40 centimeters or so, very long, took it back home and had to make an instant Legolas model for it. And of course, it would have to work much like my instant Legolini, which is the shortest bow that I've ever made for the sliding Legolini. And it has to work just the same way. So this means that you put it to the front so it can grab the string, you draw it out like so, and then you aim with it and shoot. And you can quickly do that again until the magazine is empty. But of course, at a different scale, much, much longer. And of course, this requires precision saw work because that slot has to be very straight, totally smooth, and neither too narrow nor too wide. But I managed to do it. So, here it is. Let me show you what I came up with. Meet the instant Kyudo master. Let me show you its features. Sorry, I had to go that far back so you can see how brutally long the bow is. So, yeah, it stands higher than myself a lot, actually. The bow in itself is unchanged. The fixed part of the contraption is simply tied on with a little bit of hemp rope, so I can convert this back into a normal, conventional Yumi within seconds. But as you see, the sliding part runs on a rail system with very little friction. And of course, I even wood burned it a little bit. And Marvin, actually a follower of mine, was kind enough to provide these 4 kanjis that hopefully catch the spirit of the weapon fairly well. Thanks, Marvin. Anyway, it has a magazine, of course. Oh, it's so unwieldy. For 4 arrows. And actually, these are shorter bolts. These are like 15-inch bolts. So those are very short bolts. And that also means that because of the contraption, I can shoot very, very short arrows without any danger. Normally, of course, because of a long draw, the Yumi bows need very long arrows, up to like 110 centimeters or so on. And even my contraption has a draw length of about 36 inches. So that is a lot longer than any modern arrow that you can buy like in an archery store. But my contraption allows it to shoot shorter bolts. And again, as always, those are just loaded like, you know, shotgun style. Clack. 5 of them in the magazine. You can even squeeze in 6, but the manufacturer only recommends 5. The device actually has a thumb trigger here that you can press here. And it even has like an extra little trigger lever here, and that is so I can attach a piece of string should I ever want to make it a slam fire device. Then the string would simply at the end of the draw pull the trigger and then the shot would automatically fall. But I'm no fan of that. Also what I've done is I attached a little lever here to the front so I can hold on with 2 fingers. This makes it so much easier to stabilize the weapon. And of course, as you see, I have to draw this back a lot. Like, of course, the maximum draw length, and then plus some for the handle and my fist. Therefore, I turned it sideways because it's so much more comfortable. Now try to move your arm as far back as this and twist it like so. It's very uncomfortable. It's much more natural to keep it sideways like this, like a boxer ready for the punch. Yeah, and then what you do is you shift it to the front so it grabs the string, and now I can draw it out like so. See, very, very easily, very low friction. But of course I could also press the trigger now and then push the arrow out to the front, like so. Now the biggest sacrilege is probably that I attached a red dot sight to it. But see, those Yumi masters invest a whole lot of practicing. And even they do not always match to hit the target, which is very short. I mean, it's only like a 36 centimeter diameter round disc. And then within the disc, it doesn't matter where you hit, just the number of hits on that disc counts. So when you look at the last German Open, you see that the winner only hit it 11 times out of 16. Only. It's very hard. No aiming device. This huge bow. Long, long arrows that are probably even a little bit unstraight because they're made from natural materials. So I think hitting that small target from 28 meters distance is a great feat, and I have a ton of respect for these athletes. Question is, with the red dot sight, will I be able to replicate it? Because without, there would be no chance. So this is my target, and as you see, it's very small, if you keep in mind that it's 28 meters away. So first of all, as you see, the sun is very blinding, so it won't be easy. And that is where the bow is. That is the 28 meter mark. And there on the other side you see the very, very, very small target. So this is bad conditions, but I'll have to try to hit it at least 3 times out of 4. Because that's what really good Yumi archers can do. Okay, let's go for it. meters. That was a hit. Doing good. That was it. Let's have a look. So I hit it 4 out of 5 times. Not bad. A few more details about it. First of all, it isn't easy to make an instant Legolas device for a Yumi bow because of the uneven pull from the upper side and the lower side. Because what happens is that if you draw this out like this, where you cannot stabilize it with your fingers, a lot of friction with the leather fingers, then what happens is that the string wants to slip down because the pull is stronger from below. Therefore, it's kind of awkward when the string moves up and down. And what I did is I put a little stopper of a rubber tube wrapped with a little bit of duct tape so that that does not happen. So when I grab the string, you can see that, it touches this here and it cannot go any further. So I can draw out in full without any problem. So what are the advantages over the original Yumi design? Well, first of all, obviously, this allows you to shoot a lot faster because it has a magazine, quite clear. Second, it cannot rip your ear off because see, if I cock this out like so, you know, I can do that, and because the string is completely encapsulated, that cannot happen. So even though, of course, I'm drawing out it really far and the string is definitely behind my ear, it is not possible that it rips it off. I would actually practically have to press my head against the bow and then move my head over to endanger my ear. And I have no such intention. Okay, then of course aiming. Now I use a red dot, but I could use like a normal iron sight, no problem. And I could even make an iron sight on a longer pole so that it would be easier for me to keep it on target. So the red dot of course is helpful and it's modern and it's easy, but it could have been done with an iron sight in ancient times. So the other big advantage that I have is that I keep it drawn out with the ease of my left hand. So I can just do it like this, and I can even hold it completely like here. So this hand isn't even needed. But both together give you great stability, even though the bow has serious draw force. And then, of course, all this twisting business, like you have to twist the bow like this and so on, and you have to release it like this. This is all solved because there's no need for such gymnastics during the shot. So would the Japanese military have adopted this if it would have been invented in ancient times? I don't know, you know. They never adopted any more firearms than muzzle-loading flintlock guns for a long time. So it is kind of questionable if they would have embraced a technology like this. On the other hand, of course, they wanted to win their wars. So who knows? This might just have made it. I don't know. Would it have been useful? Very much so. It would have made it so much easier to learn archery. The cost of the arrows would be much cheaper, even though, of course, they're quite fast because they're so lightweight. Just learning archery would be so easy in comparison. So I don't know. Maybe it would have been adopted. What do you think? Leave a comment down below and try not to bash me too hard because I'm spitting on Japanese tradition, supposedly, which I'm not. So I hope you enjoyed this little piece about the Yumi bow and Japanese archery, because that's it for today. Thanks and bye. Bye.